Fantastic. Welcome to MS Office Hours. My name is Preston Piney. It is 9/19 of 19. So just a great day to be doing some presentations here. We're going to actually switch this around. And we'll get you guys started here. So today we're gonna do a little bit of a security demo. I wanted to show you guys some of the latest things that are in the Microsoft threat protection. I'm actually going to, just so that I don't distract myself, turn off a few things, like in particular that. There we go. So what we're going to do today is dive through the Microsoft 365 Security Admin Center a little bit, and exactly what does it look like? How does it work now? In the past, as we talked about some of the stuff, much of it was in, early release. You guys didn't have it yet, or it was in preview mode, stuff like that. Now this stuff is live, and I want to walk you guys through the way that you can do an investigation on threats that come into your environment. I'll wrap this up fairly quickly, and then we're going to take a quick look at how do we use some of the compliance capabilities, in particular, in this case, supervision, to also detect bullying within our schools. I just kind of thought these two together would make for a nice day that we could cover some fun stuff. So we're going to jump into Microsoft 365 Security Center, where this dashboard sort of combines all of our threats and events and incidents from throughout my environment, all within this one view. And so every day, Microsoft processes more than like 6.5 trillion signals to assess changing security risks. So the intelligence that's really built into this console is what makes Microsoft security solutions pretty unique. So each of the cards that's in here provides some type of insight in different areas that I can investigate. So as I scroll down here, the one I want to take a look at is active incidents. So I'll just click on it to load it up. And so here we can see a list of incidents sorted by their severity and how incidents are trending over time. So let's just drill into this top incident here. And now I can see the details of all of the events that combine to make up this incident, including the scope and scale of the incident itself, such as like the number of users and devices that are affected. So this is really kind of huge if you think about it. What we're doing here is correlating events in an incident across users and devices and apps and infrastructure, right? That then is going to help you to stay more secure than just having standalone point-based solutions that don't really talk to each other. So perhaps probably the most powerful element of this view is really kind of that timeline that's up there across the top. It's going to let me kind of visualize the incident as it progressed over time. And so what I can see is from this sort of early alert about possible compromised account, and then to kind of see what happens. So let's kind of see what we can learn about this high security alert here. Let's take a look at this one with PowerShell. Now that I sort of know this is something I should be aware of, I can kind of start to investigate a little bit more, right? And take a look at the individual alerts in more detail. So if I click this little checkbox here, I can now locate issues like this suspicious PowerShell script when it shows here that was triggered in Word, right? So since most users don't use Word to launch PowerShell, you kind of get a little suspicious. And so from there, you can sort of directly open an alert on this and go into investigation. In this case, this is one of many things. So I'm going to go into our investigations here and look at those in total. And we see that in this case, I also have set up the automated investigation and response, or AIR, which is like the one thing I've wanted to demo for you guys since it came out, just because it's AIR, right? I mean, come on, Microsoft's got AIR now. This is awesome. Such a nerd, but I love this part. All right, and so we can see that our automated incident or investigation and response process was triggered so that we could investigate those incoming alerts and collecting all the evidence from mailboxes, machines, user accounts, and locate kind of additional potential impacted user accounts and machines, right? We can kind of see as this investigation progressed what containment actions have been taken, right? So we can kind of see what's happened here. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit. There we go. And that kind of helps. Now we can see what we did to kind of contain all this. And then we can see what we did for remediation as well. And now if we click on like this little checkbox here next to suspicious PowerShell, it'll bring up a little deeper dive for us. And we can see that all these remediations can actually just be automated. So either by playbooks created by Microsoft or customized by you, then you can open the playbook logs from here as well, right, and see exactly what triggered those. So automation, for instance, response will be kind of one of those really important elements for security solutions for you coming in the future. I mean, it has to be. Things are happening at such lightning speed, and automation is the one way that you can sort of mitigate more threats in real time, reduce the time of detection and recovery, and ultimately improve the efficiency, accuracy, and overall security of your organization. So it's just as important. It kind of frees up your time too, right? So that now you can focus on other key security operations rather than just spending an entire day investigating just so that you can determine if it was worth your time to go in and remediate. So as you can see, sort of the value of this Microsoft Threat Protection Bundle is that it can kind of replace a set of point products and enabling single unified solutions, right? There's more to this that we're not covering today, getting into things like more of what's happening coming as data comes in from Azure information or Azure Advanced Threat Protection and Defender Advanced Threat Protection, how all that works. But that'll be a topic for another day where we'll deeper dive into those things. For right now, what I want to do is go back home here and let's take a look at SecureScore, because we've talked about SecureScore on this call before. We even had a partner, Catapult, come on and take you guys through that and what all they could do to help you with it. But SecureScore has evolved as of late. Many of you have used it, but it is different than it was before. And so now with the new security admin center, which you see the URL at the top, it's just security.microsoft.com. I now see SecureScore built directly in. And if I click into it, you'll actually find out, which you could see right there on that first dashboard, that it's broken down into these sort of 5 areas: identity, data, device, apps, and infrastructure, which is kind of how you see us break things down a lot in our various conversations. The score factors in nearly 100 recommendations across all of Microsoft 365 and Azure. And in this case, my organization has scored pretty well in the area of apps, as you can see, right? Unfortunately, we haven't done quite as well in infrastructure. So I've got a little bit of work to do there. I can also view things like historic trend of my score to see how it's sort of shaping up my organization overall. What's our security posture over time in each of these various categories, right? And as a security admin, I can see how the changes that I implement in my organization are actually going to impact the sort of overall security score of the org. So here I can see the prioritized list of improvement actions, right, that it's recommending for me, along with the impact to my users and to their overall secure score. So a big part of this is going to be around understanding the end user impact, not just the score itself. So let's dive into it, right? So as we get into here, I can see sort of that list of improvements, both completed and non-completed, all sort of grouped together by category. So in my demo organization, I've implemented a lot of the device-based management controls. For example, we've enabled Intune, mobile device management here. So you can see I got 20 out of 20 for that one. But if I scroll down here, there's some others that I haven't implemented, notably the MFA for all users, which you guys all see. So just, the thing to think about with MFA for all users is the challenge in education is if you just turn on MFA flat out for all users, that's honestly just not going to work. I don't know anybody who has really been long-term successful with that. That's where that conditional access conversation comes in. Literally the first conversation we were having on this call earlier, which is anybody using conditional access? How are you using it? And I believe, KJ did the little MFA when we were talking about conditional access. And the point there is when we look at this, we want to enable MFA, but we want to do it in a way that doesn't completely turn off our customers so that they will go around us and go just use shadow IT and do something else to make it easier. In particular, if you think about it, I don't want teachers and professors, instructors to have to constantly MFA while they're in the classroom trying to do things. I want to make it super simple for them. And even when they are challenged, I want to make sure that it's simple and straightforward. So let's look into that just a little bit further. So when we dive into here, really Secure Score tool is super integrated into the rest of the M365 admin console with all these sort of deep links. So I can actually click view settings right here and jump right to the setting after I read all that tells me about it and what can be done. And this is the part that I find interesting, which is these are in preview now, but they are new and really, really cool. In particular, they're these baseline policies, right? And so you should come check these out. They do each have their own documentation in the docs.microsoft.com, so you can go read more details about each and every one of them. So here, what I want to do is actually click on this end user protection, and you can see what it's essentially saying is that the policy protects users by requiring MFA during risky sign-in attempts to various applications, right? So really that means that if our algorithm detects user behavior that's out of the norm, such as login from a new location, unmanaged device, or if you've had several recent failed login attempts, then that user is going to be prompted for MFA to prove they are who they say they are. And so this doesn't cause that end user fatigue that just blanket MFA would normally do. So really kind of cool here in improving the efficacy of the overall tool set. So if I enable that, I can just click save, and now that policy is in effect, right? Pretty cool. Neat little things that you can do. These are baselines, as you can imagine, too. So go read more about them before you just turn them on in your production environment, but I'm pretty excited about them. So you don't have to be a security operations guru to get started with this. So even if you're not a security professional at all, Secure Score kind of gives you a little bit of help in understanding what should you be doing, what are the things that will give you the highest impacts, the highest score improvement for your organizational impact, but the lowest end user impact as well. As you can see here, we aren't forcing MFA every single time. We do need users to be enrolled for that all to work. And we can chat more about that afterwards if you guys would like. All right, let's kick open a new tab, take a look at one more section here. So I kind of want you guys to see what does this look like in the real world now that I've kind of set it up with that MFA. So here's kind of a list of work apps that are all connected up to this work account through Azure Active Directory. Let's just say, for argument's sake, I don't know, maybe I'm in sales and I need to book a trip to Boston. So I'll click on Concur, my travel app here. It says, oh, you need to log in. So I'll pop up my mobile application here. And so as I dive into this little thing, it's got a little pop-up here. I'll click on that. And you can see what it's doing is asking me to match up the number that I see on my computer screen with what I see here on my phone screen. And so I'll click that same number, which is 30, right? It then does a quick little facial recognition for me, and I'm logged in. There we go. And now I'm into the application. Everything works great, right? So I kind of dig that. That's kind of an example of if you set it up, how you can do passwordless authentication. That's not just the pure MFA that we saw before, but you can set that up. Let's switch back over to the mobile device for a second here. So if I'm in Teams, and in this case, go ahead and put in some credit card information, right? I can actually now have this thing detect that, right, that sensitive content type and block it just within the conversations view within Teams. So I'm completely unable to share it and sensitive information once I have that set up in my policies. And so I can just say, hey, no problem. Let me go share it in a document. So I'll switch back over here. And there we go. So now I've got this invoice that's set up for it. That's where she was going to put it anyway. Shared it out to me. So I'll type that in. There we go. And the minute I hit save, boom, you can see here I get a notification that this has been now labeled confidential finance. So we detected that secure content type. We threw a watermark in there and automatically protected that document. So you can see here, if I go to the file info, I can see that along with the classification label, the document is also sort of automatically protected so that only my accounting and finance teams have access to it. So you can kind of see all that through here. And thanks to the organization's information protection policy, I'm assured that this document, and of course, the customer data that was in it, in this case, the credit card information, is appropriately secured. So it goes well beyond Office documents as well. If we come down here to File Explorer, we see a PDF file. If I right click on that PDF file and choose to classify and protect, I can come up here and just mark it as highly confidential and simply click apply. And so now I've applied a secure policy to it. In fact, if I open it up, you'll see I'm in the Adobe Acrobat Reader right now. If I go over here to the little security icon, it will show me under permission details that in fact I can print the document, but I can't, for example, remove certain pages from it. So when I mark that as highly confidential, this policy was applied to it automatically. So it's not just Office documents. So kind of cool. Wanted to show that off. There's always a lot of steps that go into implementing these things. I'm not trying to underestimate that. Just wanted to kind of demonstrate for you guys what that looked like. I'm going to jump out of this view for a minute and actually come over to a demo view for a second and show you guys some fun stuff real quick with the admin center here. And that is, yeah, that's the one I want to be in. Absolutely. So if I come over here into this, let's just go to security.microsoft.com, right, which is that security admin center that we were talking about before. Actually, I guess I want to be in, I apologize, I want to be in compliance, right? So I want to go look at this supervision thing. So we all have to deal with this, whether we're talking about K-12, higher ed, I don't care. There is an issue with bullying, and we all have racial diversity issues on our campuses. We have all kinds of other diversity issues that we're trying to look out for and ensure that we're doing our part for the care of every individual. And one of the things that we can do with that is if you have A5 or the A5 compliance SKUs or whatever, one of the things that you can do is utilize supervision. So I have one little weird error, but it still works fine. And so I've created this really simple policy called MSOH anti-bullying. And so with this, you can see I've created this policy that simply says, I give it a description, detect bullying by any user. Basically what I did was I scoped this to my all users group, which I already had created. It was really easy. I tell it a sampling rate, whether I wanted it to sample 100%, in this case is what I wanted. I wanted it to look at every message. I also reduce it to be only internal. I'll show you that policy creation in just a minute. And supervised users or groups. So this is the all employees group that I'm supervising. And then I had some conference rooms that I excluded out of this, the Adams conference room, the Stevens conference room, all that, because I didn't need to monitor email messages and get false positives on those conference rooms. If somebody's bullying my conference room, there's a much bigger issue. Okay, so from that, it's like, okay, what can I actually do with that? Sorry, I didn't mean to close it out. Right here, I can click open, and you will see that I have one pending item for review. So this is kind of a new interface if you haven't seen this before. So I can assign this role to individuals within my organization to come in and look at this. They can now see these are the two supervisors that have been assigned to that policy, the MSOH internal anti-bullying policy. And so from here, I can either click on this and go right to it, or click the review tab. As you can see, it caught an email, and the email has language in it that just says, no cuss words, by the way. You suck, you're worthless, why do you even show up? Things like that, just mean things, but no cuss words or anything. But it caught it. Now I can come in and mark this as, say, compliant, non-compliant, questionable. I'll say non-compliant, and then I can even mention a coworker or somebody and say, please review this. Now it doesn't notify them like Teams would as an mention, but I can note in here so it's easy for them to tell I'm mentioning them and just save that. So now I've reviewed it, and so over time I have evidence. So this stuff is sort of logged. You can tell that I've been reviewing this and resolving issues and working with them over time. So let's do this. I want to real quick, now that I showed you guys sort of here's how it looks when it's all done, here's how you deal with it. How would I actually set it all up? So I come at this from the Sorry, I'm in the wrong place here. I want to go to supervision, come back here for compliance. Have that moment. All right, supervision. There we go. Create and edit policies over here. So I have to go back to the old security and compliance right now to create the policy itself in the first place, which is a little bit frustrating, but it'll come to the new one eventually. So here's the one I had before. I'm just going to show you how I created that real quick. So I come in here, I give it MSOH take 2. All right. So it's really simple to set this up. What I did was you add who are the groups that you want to you want to cover. In my case, I went with all employees, right? I could have a separate policy for executives than I do for employees. It's all based on the groups that you guys already have created. I can tell it what do I want to monitor. Right now, I can monitor Exchange, Teams, and Skype because that's where we have email, chat, and conversation. Those are the things that we're watching out for across all those. And in some cases, you're going to have service accounts or other things that you just don't want to have monitored because they're going to be insignificant. Anything that comes from them is in fact going to be bogus. So you could do things like I did, which is a quick search here to find all of them. Start with conference, add those, simply click next. Now I get to choose what direction. Am I scanning inbound emails, outbound email, or just internal to internal? In this case, because I'm just looking at internal to internal bullying, that's all I'm going to do. But you can imagine I can use the same thing to search for PII that's outbound, right? Just as I'm going to do with bullying sensitive content information, you could do it with anything. So actually what I'm doing here, by the way, is not really doing anything too hard. I'm actually using the built-in offensive language scanner, and this is an AI based system that actually does have machine learning and gets smarter over time, gets better and better. So the more that users go in and classify data and say this was offensive or this was not offensive, it is getting smarter and better at doing these things. So very impressive, more so than just creating your own list that you maintain. Now you can do advanced sensitive information types. I'll check that for a second so you can see what I mean by that. I could come in here and say, you know what, there are over 100 of these, but I'll limit them to just the United States. I could say, hey, I'm actually looking for any kind of PHI information that might go out, or maybe I'm looking for something else here, like social security numbers, that type of thing. So I can use those sensitive types. I'm going to go back and uncheck that because in my case, I'm just doing bullying in this policy. I would do that in some other policies. The point. So offensive language, with offensive language, I want to check 100% of these messages, just a sampling rate. Maybe you don't. If you're getting a ton of false positives, you might want to back that down and say, I'm going to check 75% of them, whatever. Many times that's a compliance-based issue. So for instance, from a you may have something that you're trying to be compliant for, and you only need to verify the PII data, inspecting them essentially and reviewing them, and say 10% of the messages or something. It's not that you don't have policies set up to try to catch 100% of it, but this is then to have somebody actually come in and review it. I then determine who are my reviewers. In this case, I'll say mod administrator, hit next. There we go. All right, so I have a whole new policy, and it'll work great when I run it. Now, I already have one that does this exact same thing, so I don't need 2 different policies to do it. But the fun thing to do is just to come in here and test it again. I'll send this to my friend Megan and say, you are... I'm not very good at insults, especially insults without cuss words, so bear with me for just a minute. That was a truly worthless effort. I don't know why you even try. Please just leave. I don't know. That's as mean as I get. If that hurts your feelings that I put that in there, I'm sorry. We're just testing something out here. There we go. Okay. So we hit send on that, and sometime within the next minute or two, we should be able to come back into here and actually be able to see that trigger. So when I open this up and then sit here and refresh this, pretty soon I expect it's going to catch that. Oops. Of course, I get that error every time I try to do that. It will eventually catch that email message, I believe, wholeheartedly, and then it will show up here just like the other one did. May take it a little bit. We'll see what happens there. But anyway, I find it kind of fun. I hope that's something that you guys have enjoyed. working with. Has anybody started using Supervision yet at all in your organization? Just curious if anybody's tried it yet. Oh, we see some folks who are just saying that they were able to see compliance and security for a few days and it switched back. So you guys are still not seeing, you're unable to go to security.microsoft.com without it just switching you back over to the full security compliance manager. That's unfortunate. Dang it, I thought that was rolled out. I thought that was the whole point. This is coming very, very soon, though, because I am in a demo environment. Typically, my demo environments have the same thing that you guys do from a capability standpoint. It's not like, except that I go in and turn them on a early adopter ring, right? So they're on a first adopter ring, which hopefully you guys have some kind of a non-production environment, or better yet, you've at least for yourself turned that on or enabled it, which you do under admin settings, organization profile, I think. Gosh, it's been a little while. This might be under security and privacy now. I have to look and see. Used to be under org settings. Let's wait for it to load and we'll see, and then we'll wrap up the recording here. All right, so release preference. So I have targeted release for everyone, release track all. You can edit this just so you guys can see. Standard release is what your production environment typically is on by default. You may say targeted release for everyone. So get updates early for the entire organization. That's up to you. Or just, this is not typically the recommendation for a production environment. I'm in a test environment. If you do want access to this in your production environment, because some things only make sense in production to play with them, typically I would do it for selected users and assign yourselves or others access to that. But it's generally recommended best practice to use standard release for your end users, right? So either standard release or targeted release, and just selecting specific people as either a test or yourselves. It's kind of cool. Hopefully you guys have that. With that, I'm going to stop this recording, but I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys.